merciful leadership. Imagine transforming this unity, chaos, and pain into an unstoppable growth and genuine connection. I'm here today with a special guest, Dr. Jeff Radford, an incredible father, leader, speaker, a visionary in healthcare who rose from the grind of night shifts to leading with heart at the highest levels. His journey is not just about career milestones, it's a testament to the power of forgiveness, resilience, and the courage to unite. Welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jeff Radford.
What's up, Carlos? Carlos, I can just listen to you. This is your show. I'm just going to listen to you talk. Man, that introduction was amazing. Wow. I don't even know who that guy is you're talking about. Who is that guy?
It's an honor to have you here, Jeff. As you know, my brother, we live in a world that leadership is in more need than ever. I often, talk about, I don't like to talk about politics or religion and stuff because it's always going to be a disagreement. But I always often say leadership starts at home, starts with our neighbors, starts in our communities. That's how you rode that bike. I rode that bike, selling that bread. And it was like, life is like riding a bicycle. That's only one way, and that's forward. And it starts with the small stuff before we can get out there and change the world. And I'm very happy that we are going to have a powerful conversation here today, Jeff, because your journey started on a bike as a young rescue squad member. And how did that simple act of riding to help others shape your entire philosophy on leadership and compassion, especially in today's divided world? Let's start it there.
Yeah, Carlos, first of all, thank you. It's an honor to be on the show with you. It's truly going to be an amazing experience, and I appreciate this time with you for sure, and with your audience as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother, for all you do, man. You know how we roll. We love bringing amazing leaders to the show and CEOs, influencers like you, celebrities, athletes, anybody that actually has done something and is out there leading, truly leading from the heart, from the front. Yeah. It's an honor to have conversations like this recorded. And now we're going to take it to the grave, and our audience is going to have a great time here with us today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, yeah, honestly, it started on a 10-speed bicycle. I usually tell people that. I joined the rescue squad. I was in high school, and my dad was a member of the rescue squad. And Carlos, I wanted to spend more time with him. And so I joined the rescue squad and became an emergency medical technician. And we had one car. My dad was a pastor, and so he used that car for his pastoral work. So the only way for me to get to the rescue squad building was on my bicycle. And when the radio would go off and the tones would sound and the call was there, the call for service, I would go outside and jump on that bicycle, and I would ride down through the streets of a little town called Big Stone Gap, Virginia, a small town in Southwest Virginia. And I would go through those streets and get to that rescue squad building to serve other people. And Carlos, really from that, it taught me a couple of things. You'll go after what you want. So if you want to serve other people, you're going to do whatever it takes to serve people. And then secondly, it presented a calling in my life, a calling that I did not even really realize was there. And that is, my calling in life is to bring value and to serve other people. And so that sparked my relationship with healthcare. And I've been serving in healthcare for over 30 years now, from a bicycle rider to the rescue squad building to now a healthcare executive where I serve 9 hospitals for my company.
Wow, man, just incredible. Jeff, sometimes I always talk about, man, the small things over and over, like over 30 years and doing what you've been doing and now leading us here. And, man, it's incredible, man. Those small acts that truly shape the giants within us. I often talk about on the stages. And, so that moment when you choose to serve, even in small ways, becomes the foundation, right, for something so powerful, so meaningful, like the ripple that turns into a wave. Like, sure. Imagine if, we all found, right, that one bike ride when we go back in time that literally pushes us beyond our comfort zone and into our true purpose, I really pray that people find that bike ride, you know. And then that leads me to the second question that I want to ask you here today, Jeff. Forgiveness. It's like lifting a weight of your soul.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that, you know, what they did was okay. It means that you are choosing to be stronger than what broke you.
Yes.
And in leadership, letting it go of grudges isn't just about peace. It's about power.
Right.
It's about turning enemies into allies and rebuilding walls into bridges.
Yeah.
And forgiveness, as we both know, Jeff, is a rare topic in leadership. Can you share a specific moment when forgiving someone transformed not just your leadership approach, but the entire culture and productivity of your team?
Yeah. If I could start with how I experience forgiveness, Carlos, because I will tell you that for me to experience it is obviously something that was powerful in my life that made me realize how important it is for me to give it to someone else. So, Carlos, I was in a senior leadership role, and I had a mentor who was a CEO. His name's David Fuqua, and I know he wouldn't mind me speaking about his name because I highly respect him, and he was my CEO. And he gave me the responsibility to negotiate some contracts for the hospital that I was working for. And as I was negotiating those contracts, several vendors came in. We talked about the benefits of those contracts, and they were really servicing our equipment at the hospital. So from that, I went to David and I said, hey, here's the company that I recommend, David. I think we should go with them. We're going to save a lot of money. The hospital is going to be better off because of it. So David took my word, and we changed companies and went with that vendor. Well, then a little bit later, I received a phone call, and there was a piece of equipment down, and the director of that department said, hey, Jeff, I called this new vendor, and they said they don't service my equipment. And I said, what are you talking about? I just brought those folks in. Yeah, they service your equipment. He said, no, they don't service my equipment, Jeff. And I said, let me make a phone call. Carlos, I called that new company, and guess what? They didn't service the equipment. And I thought, oh, no, I've made a horrible mistake. So I go to my CEO, David, and I said, David, I've got a problem. I was transparent. I was honest with him. And I went to him and I said, I've made this mistake. And this mistake is that this vendor that I chose for a component of that contract does not service this very, very important equipment. It was radiology equipment, and our patients needed that equipment. And David looked at me, Carlos, and he said, Jeff, he said, what have you learned from this situation? I was prepared to have a huge consequence, quite honestly, because to me, it was a very bad mistake. And in David's eyes, I was a younger leader, and he was helping me navigate through the situation. And I told him exactly, read the contents of the contract. Here's what I'll never do again, etc. Solution. Here's what we're going to do. And David showed me forgiveness, Carlos, to where I have never made that mistake again. But from that moment is when one of the first times I felt valued. And when we talk about forgiveness, there are probably many times in our lives for people who are watching your episode, for you and I, the power of forgiveness that we've received really reminds us that the power of forgiveness that we give not only impacts the giver, but it has a huge impact on the receiver. So there have been times in my career to answer your question, to where I have extended forgiveness, not taking away the consequence necessarily, but I've extended forgiveness because when you're giving the consequence as a leader, the whole point is in your discussion, you're still showing value of how can I help you as your leader prevent this from happening again. What I know about leaders sometimes is because we're so task-oriented and we're results-oriented, and it's great to get results in our business, we sometimes lose the information in our mind or the importance in our mind that the people that are working with us, along with us, that we're serving are valuable to help us get that results. And so when they need structure and they need constructive criticism and those type of things, it's the way that we deliver it and extend our own selves to say, how can I help you prevent this from happening again? Because you're important to my organization. That sets the tone of a totally different conversation. And then when you're extending forgiveness, it requires some other components, Carlos, like love and compassion, to where all of a sudden you've got a culture that is thriving to get those results because you, the leader, care about the people you serve.
Wow, that's so true, man. I love that story. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, Jeff has actually been a client of mine. We've been helping him out, getting on more stages. And if you guys need a leader to come in and do a workshop for your team, for your leaders, my guy here, Dr. Jeff Radford, in flesh is your guy, man. It's like, you guys know CEOs, founders, my friends that are listening to the show. Sometimes we are preaching the same things over and over at the work. But, when we bring somebody like Jeff, like myself, to come in and rock the house, it's a different story. It's a whole different story. And let's talk about merciful leadership.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like an antidote to the harsh corporate world that we are living in, unfortunately, with all the division that's been created, right? Since all the things happening. How did your struggles, Jeff, like losing your job twice and starting over, fuel your drive to lead with mercy instead of letting bitterness take over?
Yeah, so that's great. I've been part of 2 workforce reductions, Carlos, and not the fault of the organizations, but I've been part of that. And there may be people that we're speaking to today to say, Dr. Jeff, I'm going through that now, because sometimes in the opportunities or businesses that we work in, there are times where we're impacted negatively in our careers. And I've been through that 2 times. One of the times that I went through that was actually a very dark time in my life, because I was in a senior leadership role. I had been impacted by a workforce reduction, and I didn't know the next steps of what was going to happen. The income wasn't there like it used to be. It was impacting my family, and I was concerned about taking care of them, because outside of leadership, I'm a leader in my home. And in my home, my responsibility is to take care of my children and take care of my wife. And so I was struggling in that dark time. But I also realized that there are changes and things that happen to you, Carlos, that really impact us from a point where something's working in our favor and we don't even realize it. I needed that change to happen to me to get me to a place where that humility was brought in my life and say, you know what, we're not promised this career tomorrow or this job tomorrow. But what I can take care of, Carlos, and I want to encourage everybody that's or listening to us today, what I can take care of is how I think right here, this mind. And that's the most difficult piece. I can take care of how I react in the situation. I can take care of how I still search to bring value to people. And that's what encouraged me to keep going and go through that. My family and I had to relocate, and we were very comfortable in the community we lived in, but we had to relocate. My family and I lost our home. But we rallied together and realized that our home was us and not the house that we lived in. And so when you go through certain challenges, and I wish life was just always comfortable, but I can look back now and I can tell you that I'm a different Jeff than what I was back then, because I'm fired up to make sure that people who go through similar situations now, I can be a testament that you can make it, you can go after your purpose, and you can make a difference in the lives of others. What we know, Carlos, and I don't want to take over your show, but I'm getting passionate about this. What we do know, Carlos, is that there's so many people out there that do not tap into their purpose, or when the first challenge comes along, the first bicycle ride that gets tough that we're talking about, all of a sudden it's just too hard to go. But you and I realize that if we keep pedaling and we keep going down their roads, it brings 2 of us to align together today to talk to the people watching us so we can encourage them to go after their purpose as well.
Amen, my friend. Amen. And I just love it that you're so transparent, right? Either the situation with your boss when you just kept at 100, or when life hits you and you don't hold the grudges, you keep them rocking. And I often say, right, when life tries to bury you, remember this: you are a seed. Tough times aren't meant to break you. They are there to break you open. Say one more time, Brother Carlos. They are there to break you open. It's easy to let bitterness take over.
Yes.
But choosing mercy, that's like planting a tree in the desert. It doesn't just survive. It thrives where no one thought it could. Like we all speak different languages, whether it's Generation Z slang or the silent nods of experience. But there's one universal language, my friends: compassion. See, when we stop labeling each other as too young or too old and start speaking the language of understanding, that's when walls come down and teams become tribes. And speaking of that, Jeff, bridging generational gaps in a team is more important than ever. How have you seen forgiveness and compassion break down the walls between younger and older team members? And part two, what can leaders do right now to spark that unity?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And what I have found, Carlos, is that it doesn't matter what generation that you're part of, and we represent a multi-diverse generational workforce nowadays for sure. It doesn't matter. The commonality that we have as people is that we all want to feel valued. We want to feel cared about. You can communicate with somebody in a different generation via text. You can communicate with somebody with email, and some people prefer a phone call. But all along those lines of communication, it's the purpose of value that unites the generational workforce. And so to spark that is really the effort of the leader to get invested in the people that they serve. And how do you do that? That is by being genuine to the understanding you're talking about. We talk about, I hear my employees all the time. Well, hearing and listening are two different things. Listening, taking the time, putting distractions away, spending time engaging with the staff, whether it's day shift, night shift, whatever it may be. Understand what makes them tick. What do they need? And being responsive to those needs. And when we do that, the value gets inserted into the workplace. And people say, well, I've heard that before. And there's difference between hearing and acting upon it. And that's where we try to encourage people in leadership is that at the end of the day, when we unite the generations together, they want to feel valued. It's the V word. And the V word isn't sitting in the office and just making decisions and pointing fingers and directing people. It is getting with the people. It's riding the bicycle. I'm going to be on that bicycle theme this whole show because I loved how you started that out. It's riding that bicycle into those areas where we need to learn and understand what makes those employees and those team members, I prefer to call them team members, makes those team members actually thrive and understand what makes them thrive in that environment, and then understand where the problems are. So, I've made decisions, quite honestly, that have been wrong decisions. It's being willing to understand it, apologize. I mean, have we ever heard that much in leadership? To be sorrowful when you actually make a wrong decision? People love transparency, and transparency leads to being, they feel value. And so I just want to encourage leaders that if you are looking for ways to spark and ignite the people that you serve, get in with the people that you serve, because that's where you're going to understand where those issues are. Get in with the people that you serve.
It's real talk, man. It's real talk. And it's often is the smallest things, man. That's why, I speak on a lot of industry stages, as you know, and now we're in the process to help you get into some of those industry stages. And I often talk to those CEOs that attend those industry events, and the directors, then aboves, the managers, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. A lot of you guys follow me. You guys listen to the show because we've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
And it's the small stuff, like you've seen a leader, maybe feeling a little awkward, and maybe, pull that person out, go for a coffee, go for a walk. I often walk around, I'm in Silicon Valley for almost 20 years. You go for a walk. I see many CEOs, friends of big Silicon Valley companies just walking around. And now you are talking, you're getting to know each other. And it's those conversations in those walks, peeling the layers off the onion, asking, how are you really doing today? Right now. Because when you ask somebody, how you doing? I'm okay. No. How are you really doing right now?
Yeah.
Is there something bothering you? Is there something you like to talk about off the record? Whatever it may be, right? And just listening and then cheering that person on, it can be such a huge difference, because now you have the leader coming back into the office, showing up totally different. It's the little things. Yeah. It's always, that's why I'm big about talking about emotional intelligence, peeling the layers off the onion with every leader in a workspace. Now we can go talk about sales and marketing, customer service, and all the other stuff that we got to talk about, that we are measured by as leaders, as CEOs. And let's talk a little bit about resilience, which is another powerful topic.
Sure.
In many industry stages that we speak, there are companies are looking for leaders to come in and talk about, and you and I happen to be talking about this and living and being a living proof of resilience for so long with our bike rides. And when you were at your doctoral program, Jeff, you were feeling like you didn't belong.
Yeah.
And what was the single most powerful mindset shift that kept you going? And how can others apply that to overcome their own challenges?
Yeah, and I think that is the mindset shift that we always are looking for to help ourselves. And so I was in a doctoral program. I was accepted at Regent University, and it was a doctorate in strategic leadership program. Carlos, I'd never really been away from home. I'm from that small town I told you about in Big Stone Gap. Never really been away from home. And I have to go spend 2 weeks at the university. And we were all in a room together introducing ourselves. And all these people were talking about these top positions they were in. And I felt smaller and smaller and smaller because they had all these big positions. One of the guys in the room, Carlos, worked in the third floor under the Pentagon. That's how important his position was. And so I'm feeling out of place because I had this small town, small guy mentality. I shouldn't be here. Why am I even pursuing this? Can I even achieve this doctorate's degree? And I think all of us fight those mind games at times. You know, we look back on how we were programmed or how we were raised or those types of situations. And how do we overcome that? Well, I'll tell you how I overcame it, because when I was in that program, that mindset, that old Jeff Radford was kicking in. And I went to the director of the program, Dr. King, and I said, Dr. King, I don't think I belong here. And Dr. King looked at me, and he had a firmness about him. And he said, I'm going to tell you what. He said, there are many people that applied for this program. He said, but you were chosen to be in this program. Well, that made my back stand up a little bit stronger. I thought, I was chosen to be in this program? And he said, you were chosen. And he said, you know what, Jeff, I want you to look around this room and I want you to see all these people. He said, some of these people already know it all, and they're not going to make it because they don't have a willingness to learn. And he said, there's going to be some of these people that when things get tough and difficult, they're not going to have the endurance to make it through the program for whatever reason. But if you have endurance and a willingness to learn, in 3.5 years, you're going to go through this program and you're going to come on the other side. Carlos, I will tell you, there were many obstacles that came in the way. I was working full time. I was a dad, going to all the events. I was a husband to my wife. I was active in the church, serving in the church, but I still wrote those papers, whether it be midnight, 2:00 in the morning, I was still writing those papers. And 3.5 years later, I went to my hooding ceremony and I scoped the room and looked around, and Dr. King's words came back to me, because I looked around and some of those people that I started with were no longer there in the program. And I learned then that endurance and a willingness to learn will take you very, very far in life. And when challenges come, no matter when the teacher fails your paper, no matter when the children are sick, no matter when you're trying to do things at work and it's tough and you're working extra hours, how am I going to do all this? Endurance and a willingness to learn will make you rise above all the obstacles. And I want to encourage the leaders listening here today, because we all just came out of COVID not long ago, and that was endurance in COVID. That was endurance through some of the most darkest points in healthcare specifically, but also in other industries. And it took resilience out of a leader. And if you look back, Carlos, there are some leaders that didn't make it through the COVID period because of all the changes, all the difficulties, and those type of things. But the people that I'm talking to today, that whether maybe you had a hard time and you're looking about getting back in leadership today, or you're the leaders that are saying, I'm burnt out, Dr. Jeff, because that was such a hard time, or this challenge I'm going through. Carlos and I are still riding our bicycles today. We still have our bicycles, and we're riding because we have these two characteristics, this mind shift, endurance and a willingness to learn. And I'm going to look at you today through the camera, and I'm going to say this, that I believe in you today. I believe that you have a purpose and a calling, and all you need is somebody to tell you that, because you were chosen for a time such as this. You were chosen to watch this episode of Carlos Inspire, and we're talking to you that we believe in you, and you just have to have endurance and a willingness to learn. And you just better watch out, because when you have those two characteristics, the sky is the limit for you.
Somebody drop an amen right now that's watching this show live. As you guys know, we record the show live every week. We typically do around noon. Today, we break in our own rules. We made a few changes due to our busy schedule. Dr. Jeff and I, we are out there rocking it, speaking on stages, helping people, helping our communities. As you guys know, the people need help. And, this show is free. The way you guys can support us is by liking, is by commenting, is by sharing it, the live episodes. And then when we release the episode every Monday. At what time? 17 a.m. Pacific time at 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐸𝑠how.com. And you leave a review for us on Apple, on Spotify, iHeartRadio. For all my friends in the smart cities, you can walk into your home and say, Alexa, play episode 76 with Dr. Jeff Radford and Carlos Cicada. But, oh, my friend, Jeff, as you were talking about it, I was just thinking about, like all the underdogs out there, all the people that came to me in my lifetime that didn't have any followers. They're feeling the stress, the anxiety, being hopeless. And I often tell them, sometimes you have to be the underdog, the outsider. You got to feel like you are playing a league you don't belong in. But let me tell you something, my friend. That moment that you decide to fight back, to stand your ground, that's the moment that you become unstoppable. You either believe the lies that others tell us, or you rewrite the script. Somebody type in that below. Somebody say that again, Carlos. You either believe the lies that others tell you, that they tell us, or you rewrite the script, period.
Yeah.
Be the underdog. Be the cool underdog. Feel in love with this shit, with this struggle. Make your desires push you. Remind yourself, why are we even doing this? You guys know why I do this. It's those promises that I made on the streets. Those kids that were murdered, that were shot. And that promise that I made to come back one day, to travel the world and mentor celebrities, athletes, CEOs, incredible influencers like Jeff, extract the best wisdom from them, put it in the show, and now I go and I speak several languages and go around the world and translate that into the kids that they don't have moms and dads. That's why I do what I do. This show over here, it's recorded. Is a something that Jeff and I are gonna leave it beyond after we are dead. People always gonna be able to come back and listen to. And we playing full out, being ourselves, authentic, real, and raw. Just going with the flow. It's live. We don't know what can happen at any time. The connection can happen. But there is something about those late hours, Jeff. That silence when the world is asleep. It's like facing your own darkness, your doubts, your fears, your regrets. And in these moments, we find ourselves. And that's when true leadership is born. Not from the spotlight, but from the quiet, from the gritty resilience of pushing through the shadows. And as you nurse working in the midnight shift, Jeff, you must have seen some humanity as its best and worst. What lessons about life, leadership, and unity did you learn from those dark and quiet hours that still guide you today as a top healthcare leader?
Yeah, that's great. I will say I started my nursing instructors when I was in nursing school, Carlos. They said they used to kid me, and they said you need to work midnight shift on med surge, and more importantly, they said you need to work med surge. I didn't want to work med surge. I wanted to work ICU, emergency room. I had the testosterone going. I wanted to save lives and just make all be around the trauma and all those type of things. And at that time when I got out of school, those hospitals were not hiring new graduates from nursing school in those departments. So where did I go? I ended up on med surge on midnight shift, and my teachers loved it because they were the ones that told me that's where I needed to go. But what it really helped me learn is I did get a great foundation of nursing. I had book smarts when I got out of nursing school, but I didn't have the street smarts, the experience in the hospital, the night shift where there's not a lot of resources, and how you pull together as a team and unify on night shift specifically to where you help each other and you go through those things. And so it started laying a foundation in my career about team building and how we had to unite together. How when you have limited resources, you find the resources. You're resourceful in overcoming obstacles is one of the things my current company says. And then that led me to the operating room where I continue to build a foundation. And all the time, Carlos, and I want to encourage your people here because maybe they don't realize that each step in their life is building a foundation to the next step in your life. right? You may not understand it, and it may be tough and challenging. That time that I lost my job and I went home and I didn't know what the next step was, I had to buy scrubs again. I had to go back to a nursing position again. I had to start all over again. But in the background, because I stayed faithful to God, and I stayed faithful to the church, and I stayed faithful to my family, and I stayed faithful to my core values and my core being and my core purpose to serve other people, there was things transpiring outside that I had no awareness of until one day I got a call and I went from a nursing position back into a leadership position just like that. And from that, Carlos, I have been promoted to different roles within the company I serve, to where now I serve 9 hospitals as a regional vice president. That's not to brag about myself, but that's to tell and encourage people that you may be laid off. You may have a workforce reduction that you're hearing from me. You may have the small town mentality that you're hearing. You may feel like that you're not from anything and you're riding that bicycle to a land of nowhere. But I'm telling you, if you stay on your bicycle today and you're going after your purpose and your dream and your mindset is in the right place, that bicycle is going in a direction and you don't even know the direction sometimes. But there's a door getting ready to open, just like when I met Carlos just a few weeks ago. It was a door that was open for me to bring value to him and for Carlos to bring value to me. And really, that's our purpose in life, isn't it, Carlos? Is that we are supposed to bring value, no matter if it's speaking and leadership and those type of things. So I want to encourage people, and I probably got off the topic of your question because I just get excited about it.
I love it.
But in those dark areas, I had to stay true to myself, and I had to stay true to my faith, and I had to stay true to my purpose. And that taught me that if I can push through, that dark area always ends, Carlos. It always ends. And you don't know when it's going to end. It could be today. It could be 2 months from now. But it always ends. And the second point I want to make is that I had to have a good support team. My wife was the one who was picking me up out of that grave, out of that darkness. She was supporting me, and people who believed in me kept encouraging me. So I found support from other people. There's a big thing about mastermind, and you and I know that from our studies and talks that we've had about mastermind. So if you're in a place right now, find people, find Carlos, find myself. That's what we're here doing today, is encouraging you and telling you you can do it, to keep riding your bicycle in the right direction. So I had to surround myself with people that loved me and valued me to help me through those dark times. But it also set me down in those dark times to listen to the voice to speak to me about what the next steps are. So I can go on and on about that dark time, but I came out on the other side of it, and I have been blessed tremendously because I stayed to my core and I stayed to my purpose.
Amen, my brother. Amen. And as you are talking about mastermind over here, I was thinking about our good friends, Don Green, that introduced us. Shout out to my brother, Don Green.
Yeah, thank you,
For
Don.
some of you guys that don't know who Don Green is, my friends, Don Green is a legend. Don Green been on my show not just once, but twice. Don Green, every time that I had Don, I think we did 90-minute episodes. Normally, you guys know me, I do 30 minutes to 60 minutes. But Don has so much wisdom, guys. He's the president of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Highly recommend. And Don is amazing, man. He buys books from people. He gives books. He donates books. He helps the foundation so much. He's a true spirit of Napoleon Hill in flesh, walking around, traveling around. I had the honor to speak on so many stages with Don. And, that's why I love speaking on stages. You meet incredible people, and you attract more incredible people. Like Don referred Jeff to me. Oh, Carlos is your guy, man. He's speaking on stages.
Yeah.
He got the connections. He loves helping people. He shows value first, even before asking for $1. You guys know how we roll. We give so much value out there just throughout the podcast alone. The leaders and the level of people that come in here and the value that each one of you guys bring as guests, and that I try to do my very best to, make it interactive, entertaining, ask you guys powerful, tough questions, and you guys just reel and roll. You know me, I don't send questions ahead of time.
No, I didn't get any questions.
It's like we're going live, bro. But that's what life is about. It's like I tell people all the time, and you guys hear that, people probably stolen that from the Bible. You hang around the barbershop long enough and you get in a haircut, baby. You feel me? That's the deal. That's why you guys see me often, guys. Just like as Jeff talking about, find your group. It doesn't have to be Jeff. It doesn't have to be me. But find that person that's going to challenge you. They are where you want to be.
Yeah.
And, forget about buying courses. What you're going to buy is implementation. Is somebody to hold you accountable. There's somebody that walks from authenticity, that is walking the talk every single day. Like people coming to me a lot because why? I'm speaking 3+ times a week, online and offline. Now, boom, Jeff was attracted to what are we doing? Now we're helping Jeff. Jeff is going to pass it on, all the wisdom that he has, and many others that come in our world. And the biggest gift that I can tell anybody to give themselves is when you start making more money, go in and start hiring better team members, better advisors and leaders like Jeff, like myself, like Don, to now be on your board of advisors. Because guess what? Now, when you do that, you are buying time back. And that's the greatest advice that I can ever give somebody is to get better, start making some money. That money that you start making, reinvest that money back into your company and buy your time back. Hire more assistants, better team members. Eventually, I pray that you hire a CEO to replace you, a CMO, a CFO. Now you have these people running your businesses, and now you step back and do what me and Jeff are doing, speaking on more stages, collaborating, coming together for interviews, being on more podcasts, radio shows. I recommend Jeff to one of my business partners' radio show. So it's like you find value. You give so much value to the people that come to you that they don't even expect. You guys know me. It's about mind-blowing them, anything beyond their expectations. And so, I really enjoyed this conversation, Jeff. And many leaders, they confuse mercy with weakness.
Oh, yeah.
How do you define the strength in forgiveness?
Yeah.
And how have you seen and empowered teams to reach levels of productivity and growth that no tough leadership style could ever do?
Yeah. No, that's wonderful, because I think sometimes people think about compassion, love, humility, things like that as an opportunity to be a weak leader. But I will tell you that one of the things I speak of as a component of merciful leadership is courage, because it takes courage to be able to invest time in people. And so, when people say my business isn't working and I've been doing this, I've been putting the hammer down, and I'm like, well, how's that working for you? Because those results aren't happening. People can go around like little robots in your organization, but guess what happens when they're little robots in your organization? There's a lack of creativity in the organization. There's an issue with retention in your organization because they're not going to stay, especially the younger generation. They are not going to stay. It's no longer like, what can I do for the organization? It's what can the organization do for me? And we go back to that value word. So when I talked about that experience of forgiveness in my life, when I had David Fuqua, who extended that forgiveness, I would do anything for him because he showed value in me and used that as a teaching opportunity. And he could have simply said, you messed up, you did this, you did that wrong, and went on, and there would have been no value in that conversation. But the power of him extending forgiveness caused me to want to do anything for him and to actually work harder and get more results. And then I also, Carlos, felt the ability to go and talk to him about any idea that I had or creativity that I had, because he allowed that opportunity, that door to be open, because he took time to listen and understand me. So when people talk about that could be a potential weakness, don't talk about something you haven't tried, because it's so easy to say, oh, that's a weak leader there. I can tell you from my career that when I have shown value to people, those people want to do anything for you and often ask, what else can I do? Whereas if you have a different style of leadership that's more what I call transactional and autocratic, and it's that factory worker that used to look out the window and point his finger, and all these little people, I would term as little minions that were doing the work, trying to get all the results, but they went home and they didn't give an idea. They didn't feel valued. They just felt like a little robot. And then maybe they didn't have other choice, so they came back the next day. But those days are gone. People have choices of where they're going to work. They want to be part of an organization where they feel like they're valued and they can give their ideas and they have autonomy. And the way to do that is to have a loving, compassion, forgiving culture that is powerful beyond anything else that you can provide for them. It truly brings value. But why people don't do it, Carlos, and why people are often easy to talk about somebody investing time is that is exactly what it requires. It requires an investment of the leader because love, forgiveness, and compassion, those are all action words, Carlos. It's not something that we just talk about. And for us to do that requires our time to invest in other people. But if you take the time to do that, it's not about the role that we have. It's about how we use the role to serve people. I'm not about the title. I told you what my title was, but I don't care about that title. What I care about is I've been given the wonderful and awesome responsibility to take care of 9 hospitals that impact patients every day. So I want to create a wonderful employee experience, and I want to create a wonderful patient experience in our hospitals. That's what I care about, and that's how I use my role. It's not about the title, and people got to get over the title. It's not about the title. It's about serving people, and when you serve and show value, you watch the results happen because people will make sure those results happen.
Amen, my brother. Amen, man. I can imagine the energy and the vibes at the hospitals that you manage. You know, some hospitals you walk in and you feel the vibe already, and the vibe, is based on your tribe, is the leader. What I always say, the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. So I can imagine, how your hospitals thrive. And, I often say, mercy isn't about being soft. No. It's about being unbreakable. Really hope somebody's listening to my words. It's easy to lead with a clenched fist, but the real test, my friends, it's leading with an open heart. You see, mercy means you're not afraid to be vulnerable, to forgive, to let it go, because you know the power that comes from creating a safe space for growth. So I really, I love it. I love it how you answer to that question. It's just very powerful. And Jeff, in times of chaos, people look for light. A leader's job isn't to, prevent the storm. It's to be the lighthouse. And sometimes, even when everything feels like it's falling apart, that's when you find the greatest opportunities to build something stronger, something unshakable. During times of workforce reduction and transition and the mass layoffs, Jeff, that we've seen often, many sectors because of AI and various things, economy, wars. Morale often crumbles. How did you keep your team not only together, especially throughout COVID, but thriving? And what practical steps can any leader listening to us today can take to lead their teams through the storm?
Yeah, that's great. I think the first thing that I would say is open and transparent communication. A lot of times people who are unsure of the situation or what's going on, if you're not the voice and you're the calm, steady voice during the terms of adversity, who is giving open, transparent communication, then people will often just sit there, and that's how rumors start, and that's how chaos starts in the workforce because the leader's not speaking. The leader's not present. The leader's not engaged. We see that, and I won't go into politics, but sometimes we see that in storm-ravaged areas to where when the leader shows up, the main person shows up, people are encouraged and their demeanor changes and they have hope because the leader who can make change and give that hope has arrived on the scene. And I will tell you that in times of chaos speaks the most opportunity for a leader to rise up and show clear, consistent, transparent communication during that time to where it does give people hope and something to hang on to. So I will tell you, I said I will tell you, and I believe this thoroughly. I'll go back to the COVID time because it was one of the most challenging times of my career, as when COVID started to enter my community and enter the communities of this national company that I work for. There were sometimes changes given every day to the local hospitals of something that we had to implement or change or speak to, rules we had to do, visitation, everything surrounding different things going on. But I was encouraged, Carlos, because my senior leaders that ran the company, they were giving open, transparent communication and hope. They were tearful at times on the calls because they were personally impacted. They had so much concern for the employees and people that were impacted that emotionally it involved them. So it allowed you to see the realism of those leaders. And I think that's another point, is being real. Being real with people sometimes requires the emotional side of us at times, not to be stoic all the times. And I think there's a time and a blend of that for emotional intelligence that you talked about. But open, transparent communication, realism, that you are truly a person too, to be vulnerable, to have those times where you are vulnerable and showing that, draws people and attracts people to you, versus where's the leader at? I haven't heard anything. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we're not going to stay open. Maybe, there are so many questions because nobody's talking to the people. And so I would say that's probably one of the biggest things, Carlos, is open, transparent communication and realism of who you are during that time, and showing empathy because it's impacting those people. When we talk about compassion, if I could just touch on that just a little bit more, St. Francis says compassion is like when you secure the misery of others, when you put yourself in the misery of others. And so there's been many times in my career when something tragic has happened to a team member, to where there's an effort that's been there to show empathy during that time. Or if something's impacting the entire organization, to be empathetic, to be involved and to be present, whether it's days, nights, or whatever it may be. Or when we're short-staffed, to be on the floor because we're short-staffed. How can I help? What can I do? That goes beyond anything for team members. And so that's what I would encourage people today. In the times of chaos, it's time for us not to hide away and not for us to go away, but it's even more of a calling for that unbreakable leader like you speak about, to go through and be engaged and give that open, honest communication and be vulnerable with the team at times.
Yeah, no, man, I love it, Jeff. I can imagine already the days where somebody calls sick and you are out there on the floor at the ER and it's midnight and you're
picking
just
up people at snowstorms in my truck. Let's go.
Like your great energy and vibe, and you're walking through the halls. And I love it, man. I have a lot of friends, Jeff. They are nurses in my own family, cousins, aunts, uncles. I lost a few friends, because of COVID, man. So I always get my heads up. I love helping nurses, man, and military veterans. You guys know me. Women, single moms. I mean, you guys know me, man. I rock it. I do scholarships. I get you guys in on stages, on podcasts, radio shows. I want to make your messages, your books, everything that you do go viral. You are saving life, man. It's like, talk about a hero without a cape, and just God bless you, brother. Because you, Jeff, I mean, you've been both a healer and a leader, a nurse saving lives and a CEO saving organizations. How does the concept of healing translate into leadership? And part two, how can leaders heal broken teams to foster unity and growth?
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think, one is you got to take care of yourself. I read a lot, Carlos. You're speaking of Don Green. I have his books right here on my desk that I've read, Don's books, and that he gave to me, quite honestly. So he is such a servant. Yeah. And so Don is such a wonderful example of that. But
I have those greens all over my studio and it's signed the autographed copies is on my safe from all the legends and the gurus, that some of them are no longer here.
Yeah, he's tremendous. And so I try to take care of myself, because I realize if I don't take care of myself, I can't be enthusiastic to other people. And sometimes I have to remind myself of what my purpose is and how do I fulfill that by helping other people. So the number one thing that I try to do is take care of myself, so I can always be the person that's giving, because that's what the team sometimes requires, is you to continuously give. The other thing about that, though, about your question, is when I'm thinking about the engagement that I have, and how do you get people through those times, and how do you as leaders just kind of tap into that healing part. Healing comes in a lot of a variety of places. Sometimes people will come to you as a leader, so this is a huge component at times. And as leaders, we are so in tune to fixing things and giving solutions. There are times as leaders for us just to be quiet. And people come to us and they just want us to listen. I have found in my career that sometimes people, when they come to speak to me and give me a problem, they just want me to validate that I recognize that they have a problem. they're not asking me to do anything about it, or they realize I can't do anything about it, but that I took the time, the door was open, and I allowed them to speak. And I listened without distractions, without cell phones, without emails, and looking, and because there's a difference there too. And I took time one-on-one, and I paid attention to what they had to say. There's healing in listening. There's healing in time. There's healing in engagement. There's healing in presence. There's healing in chaos, because there's healing in giving. And I could just go on and pop them out of what healing is. It's not necessarily the nurse at the bedside. And I'm so thankful for those times that I was able to do that. But I have been blessed with an opportunity now to provide healing to multiple organizations, and how I listen, provide communication, I'm engaged, and those type of things. And so I think it goes beyond that. So the foundations of nursing, to where I was able to use head knowledge and equipment and my hands to provide healing to patients, I now have taken that to more of a larger scale, and to where I may not use my hands necessarily to touch patients, but I use my ears to listen to the people that I serve. I use my voice to give encouragement to the people I serve, which provides healing. I use multiple avenues, whether it be social media or whatever, to help provide healing to people. And healing comes in all different varieties, Carlos.
Amen. Amen, my friend. What a beautiful answer. And, I always say, Jeff, whenever I'm out there speaking, that the healing isn't just like patching up wounds.
Yes.
It's about letting the light back in. That is light in darkness, when we really, like you're talking about, being present and in the moment, putting the phone away and all distractions away. Leaders are healers when they choose to see the potential in brokenness, the beauty in the scars. That is a strength in vulnerability. Remember, guys, every team can heal, but it needs a leader who believes it's possible. It's like Jeff says, sometimes just reading that book, an extra book a week, before going to bed, reaching out to people like Jeff, like myself, being in proximity with others that are walking the talk every day, leading teams, successfully growing companies, buying companies, exiting companies, whatever is that thing is that you are looking for. Imagine a world where mercy isn't an exception. It's the rule, where every leader, every team member decides that today, right now, they are going to lead with empathy, understanding, and grace. They're not going to worry about what others are going to say, other people's opinions, none of our business. I often tell people, stop taking constructive criticism from people that have constructed as shit. Say it one more time. Stop taking constructive criticism from others that haven't constructed crap. It's just like that one act, that one choice, man, has the power to not only change a team, but to change the world. And I'm very excited, Jeff, as we are coming over here towards the end of the show. A lot of my guests, you guys already know my final question to Jeff. It's a very profound question. Jeff probably even have an idea what it is, because he's been listening to the show. But before I ask you that question, Jeff, what is the best place that they can follow you, man? They can continue this conversation. They can reach out to you. Where do you spend most of the time, Jeff, on social media or on your site? What is the best place to follow up with you, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Carlos. And a good, wise coach named Carlos gave me some good advice here just a few weeks ago. I'm everywhere. So you can follow me on X. You can follow me on Thread, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can catch me on all those social media channels, and that's fine. You can go to www.drjeffradford.com. And you can obviously reach out to me there. There's a place to fill in your information and just reach out to me and whatever your needs may be. And then my email address is drjeffradford@mercyspeaks.com. So, because I truly believe mercy speaks. It speaks. I don't just speak from the stage, but mercy speaks in leadership. Mercy speaks in your home. Mercy speaks in your friendship. And so those are the ways you can get in touch with me, Carlos. And I want to slow down so you can answer that last question, because I'm still pumped up. You got me pumped up from the beginning of the show.
I'm telling you, man, this show is going to go to the graces. We're going to cut it up in pieces and we're going to put it out there. It's going to be all over social media. As you guys know, you guys always see me out there on social, on the airports. There, Carlos, you're everywhere. And you guys know the life that we live is based upon the things that we preach. And I love the ripple effect, right? I've been mentoring Jeff for a few weeks now, and now Jeff is everywhere. and you guys going to see Jeff out there on stages around the world, because see, we are in it to win it. We are in for the long term. Yeah. Like I always tell my clients, is like, we're not here for like 1, 2, 3 months. We are here. We are booking gigs every week. Some of these gigs are going to be 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 12 months from now. And we're never going to stop filling out applications to be selected to speak, because we love speaking life into others. And we lead by example. I often tell my clients, document every single thing. Be on every social media. Do a video every day. That one video that you can do, you never know the life that you will save.
That's right.
I speak from experience. I've been doing videos since MySpace in 2000, doing videos, inspiration, motivation, telling you guys stories. The hundreds and hundreds of messages that I have received by email, by letters, social media, of people that were going to kill themselves. They were going to end their lives. They were going to end their marriage. They were going to quit on their business. But they heard that story. They heard that a little kid that rode that bicycle, since the bicycle happens to be the theme of the episode today, that Jeff rode, that I rode, selling that bread on the streets to take care of my mother, right? Why we are even doing what we are doing. What is the reason? Why? Who are we doing it for? You guys are going to see me preaching this on every show, on every post, on every video. Let's go make more money. The fastest way to grow a business is from the stage, period. It costs $0 in advertising to market yourself. You can market yourself. You can put up content daily, add value to others on social media. You do that every single day for 3, 4, 5 years. You're going to have way more followers that you don't even know what you do with. And you master the art of speaking, communications, getting paid to speak and selected on industry stages where your avatar going to be listening to. That is magic in there, my friend. One stage can change your entire life. And now all you got to do is just get out there. Even if you speak once a month, every other month, you don't need that many stages to make 6, 7 figures a year. Not an income claim, just common sense. And so get in the game, and I'm just super excited here. And that leads to our final question of the day is 70 years from now, you're 110 years old. It's your eulogy. Going to be in a stadium. All your friends and loved ones are going to be there. And if I happen to be alive before you, I doubt it. But if I happen to, I'll be there, smoking a Cuban cigar, drinking some scotch or tea, and listening to AC/DC or Guns N' Roses or Metallica. And your best friend's going to read it. And he's going to say, Dr. Jeff Radford was ... In your own words, my friend, who was Dr. Jeff Radford?
Dr. Jeff Radford valued people and spent his life serving the needs of others. And even though he went through different dark times of his life, he never lost sight of his purpose. And his purpose was to help others, and he lived that. That was the core of his being, was to serve and help others. No matter if it was his family, his friends, people he worked with, that was the core of his being. And he did it in such a way to where he was positive, and he made other people want to go right alongside of him to achieve that same purpose. That's who Dr. Jeff Radford was.